Hi guys, welcome back to Tech Talks with Rachel. I'm here at Black is Tech. I'm here with Adrian. I met him at the networking event last night and he's so humble. I know he's so humble. Honestly, I Googled him and I found out so much and I feel like I just scratched the surface. So Adrian, what's your full name and what's your full title or titles?
Peace, everybody. Adrian Rashad Driscoll. I'm a storyteller, XR expert. Basically, I tell stories, sometimes use a headset.
That's a very modest introduction, Adrian. So, how did you get into what you're doing today?
I've always been a writer, storyteller. I was writing at like 6, and I didn't realize I was a writer, but I was just doing like small skits. Did acting in the church, moved out on my tax check, and started my production company shortly after, and that's all I've been doing ever since.
How does tech fit into what you do?
Well, my goal is to get rid of as much tech as possible. Tech should be invisible, and I try to make it as such. Nobody cares about technology, they just care about the benefit. So I try to focus on what's the story, what's the narrative, and then how can you add tech to enhance that as opposed to leaning on tech.
So you're a CEO, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. What does your day-to-day look like in terms of your creativity and everything tech, and how do you marry all that up? What does that look like?
Wake up wondering why I'm doing this. A lot of crying. No,
A lot of crying.
no. It always is different. You know, I try to find ways to talk to people so they're inspired and they're empowered. And you know, my addiction is helping people, and I often overextend myself. But I'm just trying to find new ways to tell better stories. And sometimes that looks like spending hours and hours on YouTube Academy. You know, other times it's just experimenting.
So in terms of the, because I imagine as a CEO and entrepreneur, you're not going to have all the skills that you need to deliver the product or service that you
Right.
deliver. How do you go about that? Do you have a technical background? And what are some of the things that the services that you've been able to either deliver or the products that you've been able to build in your company?
Yeah, you know, I don't know a lot. I learned just enough so I can translate it to my dev team, you know, because they're way smarter than me. My gosh. But yeah, we do concerts, you know, we extend the stage, we try to build communities, and oftentimes people can't or won't spend large amounts of money on a concert, right? So our goal is to, hey, now you have a $2,500 ticket. You can't afford that. Well, let me get you a $20 ticket that lets you still feel part of the community. So we, you know, extend it to artists, we extend it to communities, but it always looks a little bit different. But our main focus, again, is telling that story. You know, and the question is, do you want to party in Atlanta or do you want to party in Atlantis? You know, give people opportunities to do things that they can't do, right? And that's how real empowerment and communities are built.
So what's the technology you're using to allow people to experience these concerts? And you said you extend the stage. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a top 100 virtual and augmented reality expert, right? It just means I'm a nerd. But in general, we use all technologies. We see what's going to be the best fit. So perfect example, Jay-Z and Beyonce, they have On the Run tour, right? I take them off stage, make them a hologram. Is that using volumetric capture? Is that using, you know, do you want to see it in augmented reality, put it in your living room? Do you want to see it in VR and have the world dancing around you, you know? So it's never consistent what we do, just because artists aren't consistent. You know, there's no cookie cutter approach, but I think that's kind of the magic of it.
What made you ever think of that? Like, were you inspired by something else, or did you kind of do it by yourself in a dream? Was it a vision?
You know, I was watching Goodfellas.
Okay.
Great picture, right? And there's a scene where Tommy shoots Spider, and I'm like, well, what if you got to sit at that table, at the poker table, right? And it's just a short little background of this. I think it's cool, though. I was about to meet with Quincy Jones, and this is January 2020, and we had this whole thing set up, and I get an email that broke my heart, and they said, you know, Quincy's older. We don't know what this thing is. Let's hold off on the meeting, right? So I had been teaching at the HBCUs for Opportunity Hub, and I'm showing them XR, and I met Young Guru, and it took a year or over a year for us to get the meeting, but I'm like, hey, let me shoot my shot. He said it's going to be bigger than you could ever imagine, and here we are. 4 years later, we've been working strong ever since.
I love that. So you talked about some of the things that you do. You understand something, translate it to your development team. Is that a challenge, or is that something that you are able to do quite easily, or do you have other challenges that you overcome as a CEO of this space?
I've been homeless. There's challenges all around. I think the coolest thing is my dev team is really, really smart. Shout out to the whole team. But typically devs are very practical. If you say I want a gray box, they're going to give you a gray box.
Yeah.
And it's not going to have gradients. It's not going to be pretty. It's a gray box. That's what you asked for.
Yeah.
So being able to understand that and speak in the language that they're like, oh, you mean something gray with a gradient, and this is the color code, and being very technical in your approach is very important, and it's helped me a lot. But, again, the team is so good, they usually pick it up right away anyway.
So augmented reality, have I got that right?
Augmented reality, yep.
So how does one become successful in that field of work?
Looking for the underlying narrative in everything, right? And that's, if you look at brands like Louis Vuitton, you're not buying the purse, you're not buying the wallet, you're buying the brand, right? There are no products. So understanding that shows that you have to see the narrative in it. So if I'm doing an augmented reality food menu, there's a narrative, right? People want to have a cool experience. People want something to talk about, right? So now it's like, how do you create something that people will talk about? Well, what does that create it? An ROI or ROE for a client, right? It's created an opportunity to come back for a guest. So figuring out how to marry those has kind of been the magic.
Have you ever thought of doing it for menus and restaurants and things like that? Because I've always thought of going into a restaurant and seeing my food before I order it.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. The augmented reality menus, literally that, because people want to do something fun, and most of the time, all they want is a takeaway for social media. Most of the time, what can I put on my Snap, my Insta, my TikTok, whatever. So giving them that small opportunity adds true value. And if you look to make money, you'll never make money. If you look to add value, you'll always make money.
Yeah, solve a problem, right?
Yep, that's it.
So how does somebody get into what you're doing today? Somebody with no technical background. You sound very creative from the conversations I've had with you, and I'm we're quite similar in characteristics and the way that we approach life. How does someone who's like us, who knows nothing about tech, how do they get into this space and be successful?
Be a kid. Experiment. And that's like the biggest thing I found, because like my business partner, Harold Hayes Jr., he's always just trying to break things. It's like, okay, well, let's test this out. And I was like kind of passive on, I need to learn. You don't need to learn anything. Just try it. Just go put it together. There are free augmented reality platforms. You want to get into AR, go to Worldcast or Onirix, free trials. Look, don't be too good to create another email and get another 7-day trial. Okay? Because we're out here trying to get it. And that's look, if you don't have the money, you don't have the resources you think, use whatever you can. Figure it out just so you can test and say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't. But go to Worldcast, again, Onirix, there's a few AR platforms. You can take a model from Sketchfab, take that experience, show it to a client and say, hey, I was thinking about something like this for your product, and then you can build out a whole one, and it's cost you nothing to build a prototype. That's how you do it.
I love that. What trends or technologies, emerging discoveries do you think are going to be super important and something for us to position ourselves to take advantage of within the next 5 to 10 years?
So one thing is, for the longest time, people have wanted like photorealistic VR experiences, and they're very expensive processing-wise. Within the next 5 years, there's going to be no more need for a game console. Okay? So the PlayStation, the Sony, there's going to be no more need because streaming is strong, right? So all these are going to, and this is my prediction, but I'm almost positive I'm right. All of these are going to be like an app on your smart TV. Right? So now you have subscription-based for your devices.
So that means PS4 won't exist, you think?
you won't need it. There might be a PS6, but there won't be a need for a PS7 because you have web GPU, WebGL, pixel streaming, poly streaming. You're able to have full fidelity just based on your internet connection, right? Same thing is going to apply for virtual and augmented reality. So these very high fidelity experiences are going to be right at your fingertips. That's going to be a huge draw for people because now you're no longer limited by processor power, right? Then, and I think they just announced it, but I predicted this too. You'll get like Apple Vision Lite. Apple is brilliant at marketing. They do a great job. Apple Vision Pro, you had FOMO, you couldn't afford it. It's $4,000, no one's buying it, right? There's no content for it. Well, now they're going to release Apple Vision Lite. What is that going to do? Oh, well, instead of 4,000, it's 500. I'll get that. So I've been wanting this anyway, right? You translate that to more affordable user experiences, it's going to blow up because Apple does such a good job at interoperability.
I love that so much. I'm so excited to see that come out and play out. So, what is your favorite and most impactful career advice that you've ever received that you'd like to pass on to the viewers?
Whoa. Man. That's a great question. Today I just heard, and it reminded me so much that if you lose, I'm trying to think of the quote so I don't butcher it. If you forget the language of gratitude, you will never be on speaking terms with happiness. And I'm burnt out, not gonna lie. I'm doing back to back, and I work 16 hours a day, and I prayed for this. I begged for this, and there are people all over the world who would kill to be in my position.
In a heartbeat.
And you have to keep reminding yourself this is what you want. And it's half the time it's not stress, it's just work. Do the work, So putting all that together in my mind is such a refresher, and it's like, this is not that bad. Yeah.
I love that. So where do we find you?
Adrian Rashad Driscoll on all platforms. You gotta say the whole thing like a Tribe Called Quest. It's Adrian Rashad Driscoll. Collimation.tv is our website. Peace. And find me on LinkedIn. Tap in. Let's chat. I want to be a resource. The highest level you can get to is servant, and I totally believe in that. So I'm a servant. I'm here to help. Let's build and see how I can be of assistance.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We have more interviews coming up, and we're going to learn so much from the experts here at Black is Tech. And I'm so excited for you guys to get more and more wisdom, knowledge, and amazingness. Thank you so much for joining.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. Peace.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.